Center for Spiritual Living right here in beautiful Fullerton, California. My name is Tomoko Rosas, and I am a practitioner at this beautiful spiritual center. Please join me in stating our purpose statement. We are a loving spiritual community, empowering all to live healthy and successful lives through practicing the principles of science of mind. Thank you all for being here. I know you have a lot of choices, what to do on Sundays, but you're here by divine appointment. I have a few announcements before we get started. Today is our special day for our Sacred Gong meditation with Terry Wilder. Yay! And sad to announce that this will be the last one for this year, and perhaps another one next year sometime, so don't miss it. It's a wonderful experience. I recommend it to everyone. Please sign up for our summertime fun lunch and paint with Karen Thomas. That's coming up pretty soon, and that's on July 31st, and that's after service. All the details are in the program and also on the website. We're having our Wednesday evening guided meditation, and it will go through August. So if you'd like to come join us on Wednesday at 6 p.m., please do. We have just 2 more E-Squared workshops left. That's Wednesday evenings at 6:30 to 8 o'clock, and we're having so much fun. And this experiment coming up is number 8, the 101 Dalmatian Principle. And if you'd like to know more about that, please come. It's a lot of fun. And details are in the program. New summer classes opening up for August. And this one is a group coaching, life coaching class, but of course it's spiritual coaching. It's called Embracing Your Awakening Self, Essential Spiritual Tools for an Expanded Life. And this is a little different from our CSL classes, so come find out why it's different. It's only 6 Wednesdays starting August 3rd, and the details are in the program. Daniel Nemeth concert is on Saturday, August 13th, and the tickets, I do have them for sale today. So if you'd like to come, please buy your tickets early because the seats are limited. Our Unexpected Income Club is doing awesome, and we are over $16,000. Yay! It's amazing. So if you'd like more information on that, please come see me after service. So just switching gears, let's take a deep breath. And so as we come together on this beautiful day, let us bring our awareness to our breath and simply follow it within. Rest at the seat of your heart and recognize with me that God is all there is. God is the infinite intelligence, divine love, and the life force that animates the entire universe and our very own being right here, right now. We are one and inseparable from this intelligence, love, life, just as our breath is inseparable from our bodies. God is expressing through us as each one of us right here in a beautiful and unique way. And from this place of oneness, I speak my word of blessing for this morning's service, knowing that it is already perfect, loving, complete, filled with messages of love, truth, comfort, inspiration. And I speak a word of blessings for our friendly ushers and greeters, our amazing musicians, our wise board of trustees, my fellow practitioners, the children and the loving teachers of our junior church, our faithful congregation and visitors. And a special blessing for our wonderful Dr. Bill for his dedication and commitment to our teaching, our congregation, and to being a loving channel for Spirit to deliver messages of inspiration, comfort, love, and freedom. With heart full of gratitude, I simply say, thank you, Father, Mother, God, and let it be. And so it is.
I need to be still and let God love me. I need to be still and let God love me. When this old world starts to push and shove me, I need to be still and let God love me.
My spiritual reading today is from 365 Days of Richer Living by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker. And I was selecting a gift from a friend of mine that had a birthday, and I was looking at this book, and I just opened to this one page, and it is titled, I Know That My Spirit is Free from All Limitation. I know that I understand the truth about myself. They start with quotes. I am the Almighty God. Walk before me and be thou perfect. And that's from Genesis 17:1. Whoever knows the God who is without commencement, without end, who within this impervious world is the creator of the universe, who is of an infinite form, the one penetrator of the universe becomes liberated from all bounds. And that's from the Upanishads. Thus it is that the Tao produces all things, nourishes them, brings them to their full growth, nurses them, completes them, matures them, maintains them, and overspreads them. And that's from the Tao Te Ching. Tao Te Ching. Our Chinese text tells us that Tao, which means spirit, produces everything, nourishes everything, and maintains everything. It spreads itself over everything. It flows through everything and is in all things. Indeed, being all that is, there can be nothing outside it. Our Hindu text tells us that in such degree as we understand God, who is the one penetrator of the universe, in such degree we become liberated. And the Hebrew text says, walk before me, and thou art perfect. Be thou perfect, We are to recognize the divine in everything, to speak to the divine in everything, to see it everywhere. Lift the stones, and you will find me. Cleave the woods, for there I am. The fragrance of the rose, the beauty of the dewdrop, glistening in the sun, are a manifestation of its presence and activity. This itself as the source and root of all. This source, Hermes tells us, forevermore proclaims itself as the oneness, being source and root of all, is in all things as the root and source. And the Christian scriptures tells us, I am over all, in all, and through all. The enlightened of the ages have told us that it is this God within us that recognizes itself in everything we are. Please join me in prayer. So once again, bring your awareness to your breath and follow it within. And know with me that God is all there is. And we are one with God right here, right now. This is the truth of our being. I now speak my word and accept as truth for everyone here and also listening at home. I know that my spirit is free from all limitation, that my physical body and my objective affairs reflect and manifest the perfection which I feel, the wholeness which I am certain of, and the prosperity which rightfully belongs to me. With heart full of gratitude for this absolute truth of who we are, I release my word into the law and simply let it be. And so it is.
We listen, we hear, we remember. Love is the way. Love is the way. Here in our hearts with each other. Love is the way. Love is the way. Love is the way to love. Receiving, we remember. Love is the way. Love is the way. Here in our hearts with each other. Love is the way. Love is the way. Love is the way to love.
Wow, Terry Wilder, everybody. Terry Wilder and Tommy Cosentino. What a way to start our Sunday. Right here with our overarching theme of Let Freedom Ring. And the title of today's talk, you might have noticed, is Free for All. I want to say that very slowly. I don't want it to be confused with free for all. I think I don't want everybody getting up and grabbing the snack material and having a food fight, because that's not what this is about. And we all know about freedom, do we not? We're always talking about freedom, especially in the month of July. But I think we should keep in mind that there are several different senses of freedom, and I think largely I would lump them into two specific types. That would be negative freedom. Doesn't that sound funny? Negative freedom. Well, so let me just talk about that for a second, because what I mean by negative freedom is that most of our freedoms are freedom from something. Would you agree? We have political freedoms, free from overbearing governments, and we have financial freedom, meaning that we have the wherewithal to do those things we should be able to do. The physical freedom, in that we're able to move about and breathe, and we got geographical freedom. We can go where we wish within limits. And all of these freedoms are freedoms because of the absence of something. That's why we say they're negative freedoms. They're freedom because there is no overbearing political, financial, societal structure. Do we have constraints on our freedom? Well, of course we do. Because living together in this group of people on this planet, if we didn't have constraints, how in the world would that work? I mean, there are certain things we have to observe. And then on the other side, we have the positive freedom. And there's only one. Although we have lots of different freedoms we can lump together under the overarching theme of negative freedoms, freedoms from constraint, there's one positive freedom that everybody has. That's the freedom to connect with that divine essence within us, that God that works in us and through us, that life principle that bears witness and gives birth to everything that ever was. That's our freedom. We have the freedom to live in that. We have the freedom to love in that. We have the freedom to experience that to its fullest. And meaning by that, we have the ability to recognize our total, true, absolute potential. None of the other freedoms that we talk about give us that. They all give us certain rights that come with certain obligations. That absolute freedom, that freedom to be one with that divine God, if you will, that spirit, that consciousness, that one mind from which is responsible for the creation of all things, that's total and complete freedom. There are no responsibilities that come with that. Well, if you want to get to that, there are certain responsibilities. There are certain things you have to surrender, as in everything else. You have to give up all those other freedoms because they're only useful here as we navigate this planet anyway. When we are reaching for that divine freedom, that absolute truth, we don't need all the rest of them. Surprisingly, our founder, Ernest Holmes, had something to say about that. And when we talk about that positive freedom, the difference, I think, the main difference with it is that that freedom is open to everybody. All the other freedoms, I mean, there are freedoms that we don't get to enjoy. Some of them we don't necessarily miss. Others we might, but you know, on that priority scale, they just fall in where they fall in. But that absolute freedom of truth is open to everyone. Ernest Holmes, in his little book, Spiritual Awareness, talking about man's divine birthright, says, we are in bondage only to a false sense of the self because we judge the possibility of the future by the limitations of the past. We all believe that with God all things are possible, but we must realize that God is an indwelling presence. Therefore, with God in me, all things are possible. We are not only one with God, God is also one with us. So, if we are me-centered, can we get to that ultimate freedom? Just something to think about. And I'd like to posit that no, we can't. So we have this thing within us called an ego that helps us and is absolutely necessary to our existence to get through this life. But when we allow that thing to grow so huge and to run rampant and to get out of control and to overtake everything else, we'll never achieve that spiritual freedom. Because that spiritual freedom has to include all things, all good, all freedom for all people. Not just for me. Another great quote I'll get to in a minute, but one of the questions is this. Okay, Bill, what's the magic word? What's the secret ingredient? And I say to you, come on, we talk about this every Sunday. It's the Christ consciousness. If we're working, acting, behaving, deciding, choosing from our self-centered ego, when it comes to talking about absolute freedom, we're selling ourselves short. Because that's never going to get there. The answer to every spiritual question, and spiritual questions are the questions that bring us the answers to non-spiritual questions, but the answer to every spiritual question is, I am. Is it not? I am. Remember Moses with the burning bush? In fact, I didn't want you to notice me switching horses in the middle of the stream. But our friend Piero Ferrucci, and we're all familiar with him by now because, you know, he is one of my favorites, so you get to hear a lot about him. He says in his book, What We May Be, and when we're talking about what we may be, we're talking about steps and actions and thoughts that will direct us toward our potential, toward achieving that which is ours, that which is free to us. This potential that we have doesn't cost us anything. We don't have to do anything for it. We just have to stop doing things that are not directly involved with it. We have to just stop doing things that are contraindicated to our freedom and understand and realize that our only true freedom is when we come with that freedom of that divine consciousness and allow our activities, our actions, and our thoughts to be drawn from that. So anyway, back to Piero. He says, since all the contents of consciousness can change and at some moment inevitably cease to be, identification with any of them inevitably leads to the death of some kind. On the other hand, identification with the self, that absolute self I'm talking about, that truth of us, leads to the experience of our permanent being, that unconditioned core which remains the same throughout all of life's events. Have you noticed that everything in our world changes? Everything in the world globally changes. Everything in my world changes. Everything at your work world changes. Everything here at the spiritual world changes as far as trappings go. The only thing that doesn't change is that God spark within us, is that essence of life. You know the greatest thing, have you seen any of this James Webb telescope?
Yes. Yes.
My God. They're seeing things from 13.5 billion light years ago. That's just almost, according to scientists, that's almost back to the beginning of time. What if they got there? What would they find? I wonder. I don't know how I got off on that. But can you, just think about it. Think about the absolutely incredible, astronomical odds against us even being here. Think about the size of what they're finding in the universe to be, and they still don't know anything at all really about it, except that it's just eternal, it's just infinite. Well, it isn't, but the source of it is. So even though everything in this universe has been changing for billions of years and is going to change for billions of years. The one thing that's not going to change is the cause of it, the creator of it, that life principle from which it came. And one day, who's to say? We come 14 billion years, maybe 14 billion years from now, there won't even be a universe. Who knows? But it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Because I am. Would it be wrong of me to say grammatically, you am? Well, let me try. I am. You am. It's the I am in each of us that will never, ever, ever dissipate because it never came into being and it's never going to go out of being. Oh yeah, Piero. So, he says, when I say I am, I know that I am before thinking, before feeling, before acting. I am aware of being pure possibility. The unbound nature of the self makes it the place in a human being where freedom is maximized. There is no other place freedom can be maximized. The only place freedom can be in its entirety is within each of us. Everything else is an illusion, or a wish, or a hope. He also says the self can also be defined as the only part of us which remains forever the same. Well, I think we kind of knew that already. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to get complete freedom from self-identification. Do we identify as something other than our true self? Well, hello, yeah. We could be a man, we could be a woman, we could be a doctor, we could be a lawyer, we could be poor, we could be rich, we could be all of these things that we identify with. And we're never, ever going to withdraw into that freedom. That sounds funny. We're going to withdraw into the freedom that allows us to expand eternally outward. But until we get away from those trappings, those self-imposed constraints, those identifications, and it's fine to have them, don't get me wrong, we can't not be those things. We just have to understand that that's us in our human potential. Us in our divine potential. We take those things in stride and we walk right past them to get to that place of absolute infinite peace, love, understanding, by surrendering to that one divine power and allowing it to operate as us. Because there's no other way that we operate anyway, is there? If we think, oh yeah, well, I got the freedom to do this and I got the freedom to do that, and I value my freedom. What makes something valuable? I have an idea. Surprise. I think that what makes something valuable is we declare it to be so. Take diamonds. Anybody ever owned a diamond? Yeah. Everybody has, or will, or does own some kind of a diamond. Why are they so valuable? Well, I have a theory. I think they're valuable because the people who own and operate the biggest diamond mine in the world claimed them to be. And we all agreed. Of course, they backed up that claim by limiting the supply of them and charging a lot of money for them. We don't say that granite is valuable because there's too much of it. We could go get it anywhere, but we can't go get diamonds anywhere. But why are they valuable? They're not valuable in and of themselves. They're valuable because we put that value on them. And that's the same with freedom. These little freedoms we have, these negative freedoms we have, they're valuable to a point, and they are given the value by us that they're going to have. So if your biggest freedom is one or the other of those freedoms, you give it maybe more value than others. But still, if you took all the value that we give all the little mini freedoms that we have and added them together, we would never even remotely approach the amount of freedom that there is in our true potential spiritual essence. So, you know, I'm a pretty good fan of Paramahansa Yogananda. And I just had to, I don't even know if this fits. It just seemed so great to me, I thought I'd throw it in somewhere. Christ is risen from the sepulchre of my indifference, and I behold him in the light of my devotion. I, a sleeping son of God, am coming out of my bodily prison into the vast freedom of spirit. Have we ever entombed ourselves, so to speak, in indifference? Hello? Yes, we have, and we do it all the time, I think. Because some things just don't seem to matter that much to us. Because we take so much for granted. Here in this country, we take a lot of freedom for granted. Do you know there are many places throughout the world that just doesn't happen? Doesn't happen. You know, we take it for granted. And I would like to suggest that us taking it for granted not only doesn't help those who don't have these freedoms, it actually hinders them. It helps hold them down and to hold them back. Because until and unless everybody, everywhere, under every circumstance is free, none of us really are. We're all laden under the burden of somebody else's being oppressed or being not free. Where did I want to go? Oh, take your choice. Talk about Ram Dass. Ram Dass says, as individuals and as a society, we set up lines of defense. We isolate poverty, old age, and death so that we need not confront them in our daily lives. The poor are often ghettos, the elderly in retirement homes, the dying in terminal care wards. We pay to push suffering away. So I think that goes a little bit beyond indifference. That speaks partially to denial. And when we're denying the plight of somebody, anybody else, we are so constraining and limiting our own freedom as to it might as well not even be here. And we cannot have absolute freedom. We cannot have the freedom of the Spirit, of the life principle running through us without allowing that to spread forth to everybody. David Riccio, in his book Wholeness and Holiness, said, poverty, hunger, and deprivation are not acceptable facts of life. They are the consequences of economic injustice. We are Christ on earth today when we look carefully at what we support in our society, and that's how it may be part of the system that keeps others oppressed. We do not want to be part of a system that keeps other people oppressed, do we? I mean, nobody does. But sometimes when we're not being that Christ on earth that he's talking about, our indifference allows that to happen. And don't you know, there goes our freedom. Freedom is not the thing about being freedom from living in this life and having to put up with things that yeah, maybe in a Hallmark movie is less than desirable. Freedom is living with everything in this life and with everyone in this life and with every situation, circumstance, and event in this life, and incorporating it into that overarching spirit of life and love and community that we are meant to be. And sometimes don't we just kind of lose sight of that? I can't have my freedom unless I can allow everybody else to have their freedom. And yet sometimes that just doesn't seem like it's the case. We have to know the truth about ourselves and the truth about freedom and how it works before we can make sense of it, before we can achieve or even possibly achieve or even hope to achieve that world that works for everyone that we're always talking about. We have to know the truth. And the truth is that we are free in God, if you will. If you don't like that word, we're free in spirit, we're free in consciousness, we're free in that life principle. We are free cosmologically to recognize the truth. But if we turn our head from it, we become indifferent to it, I'm not sure that's going to work. There was a book a while back, Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance. Anybody read that book? And what he said was, truth knocks on the door, and you say, go away, I'm looking for truth. So truth does go away. Then he says, puzzling, isn't it? And the same can be said for freedom. Freedom can be rapping on our door, knock on wood, and we say, go away, I'm busy hunting for freedom, I don't have time for you right now. Because we might be looking for it in the wrong place. We might be confusing pseudo-freedom from real freedom, or partial freedom from complete freedom, from whole freedom. And when we do that, aren't we kind of at the whim and whimsy of, like, what do they call it, the fickle finger of fate? Can't we be struck by that? We can't get to freedom by talking about it. We probably can't get there without talking about it. I don't misunderstand. But the fact is, yeah, it's been said words are symbols, but it's worse than that. Words are not just symbols. Words are only symbols of symbols. For example, the camera over here, I call it a camera. That's a symbol for what the camera is, but the camera itself is a symbol for taking the pictures. So it's a symbol of a symbol. And as long as we're talking about symbols of symbols, words will never get us to that actual freedom. It can only be gotten by experiencing it. That's the same with spirituality. We can't know God intellectually. Oh, there's lots of people tell you that they know God intellectually. They're fooling themselves, and they're fooling you, because the only way we can know God is to experience God. The only way we can be the Christ consciousness that we're talking about, and make no mistake about it, we are. In fact, William Blake said this about Jesus. Jesus is the one and only God. And so am I. And so are you. William Blake, great British philosopher. You know, he also said something else, and I got that somewhere. Wouldn't you love to hear that? What was it he said? It's about how we vision things. It's about how we visualize. It's about how we see. Because what we see is defined by how we see it. You get that? If we see truth and beauty and love and energy everywhere, it's because that's what we're seeing with. If we're seeing oppression and rage and anger and hate and bigotry and prejudice, isn't that because that's what we're seeing with? It's that, what they call it, a psychiatrist, that referral kind of principle, projection thing. So anyway, William Blake said, the tree which moves some to tears of joy is in the eyes of others only a green thing which stands in the way. As a man is, so he sees. As a woman is, so she sees. Do you ever have a monster under the bed? Remember when you were a kid? The monster under the bed, or I had it in the closet too. I couldn't open a closet door if it was dark in the room. I just wasn't going to happen. But you know what? When you get light in the room, or when you get a little bit older and you understand more about what monsters are and what they are not, was there really a monster in the closet or under the bed? But when you were that child, was there a monster? Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, Mom and Dad could come in with a great big broom and sweep under there and declare there's no monster. But I promise you, later that day, when the sun went down and it got dark, there was a monster. And they could come back in and sweep it and turn the light on. Doesn't matter, because the monster isn't under the bed or in the closet. The monster's right here. But that's the same with freedom. Freedom isn't out there. Freedom isn't because you say I can do this. Freedom isn't because the government or the politicians say I can do this. Freedom isn't because I get to go where I want to go. It's not even really having the money to do all that stuff. The freedom is right here. And until we realize that and accept it and surrender to it, we're never going to live within that freedom that is our divine birthright to do. Krishnamurti, the Indian philosopher, said, it is no measure at all of health to be well adjusted to a sick society. And sometimes I think that's what's going on here. Sometimes I think we're victims of that. We fall for that. Because after all, we're pretty easy targets. When we're in our human consciousness, we're pretty easy targets. We are only not easy targets when we're in that divine potential that is ours from birth, that is free for all of us. So I'd say, let's just take that into prayer. Let's just know that that is the place to be, because that is the place we can be. There's no secret formula. There's no secret formula at all to understand the sacred, to understand to live in freedom. We just have to practice it, and it takes practicality. It takes understanding that nothing in this world is as important as that spiritual freedom, because when we have that, and it is a gift, it's the gift of God to us upon our birth, it is that gift that allows us to meet every situation, every circumstance, every event, every happenstance, and meet it head on, and incorporate it and include it. Remember, growing up is not about pretending everything that happened didn't happen. It's about incorporating it all and rising above it, and using each thing that happens in our life, be it good, bad, or indifferent, using it to help us ascend to that upper level. Emotionally, psychologically, physically, but most of all spiritually, up to that freedom that is. The freedom that is the truth of the Absolute, and which therefore is the truth of each of us. I am free. You are free. if only we would recognize it and understand it and realize it and surrender to that divine freedom. It cannot be taken away from us unless we allow that to happen. So with this in mind, I just say thank you, God. Thank you for this freedom. Thank you for the understanding and the awareness of this freedom. And thank you for working in, as, and through me to cause that freedom to emanate from me, go forth into my world. Just with open heart, I say, thank you, thank you, thank you. I let this word go, knowing it is already so. And together we say, so it is. Let's just know that this is our opportunity to share our abundance. We know that all of our good comes from that one source, God, and for this we are grateful. And for those of you who are not coming back to the sanctuary quite yet, thank you to you too for your continued support by way of the website, the auto tithes, the mailing in, and those who stop by to see Tomoko and maybe get a quick affirmative prayer while you're here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's just know that we bless these gifts, these tithes, these offerings, knowing that they are given from the central core of who we are, which is God made manifest on this plane. We send them forth to do their good work in this spiritual community, in the community itself, and in the world at large. We do this with no strings and no conditions, and so it is.
What if you knew that you were beautiful? What if your smile was wild and free? What if you knew that you could take your time and everything would work out fine? What a wonderful, wonderful world this could be. What if every step of the journey was just as sweet as the final prize? What if you lost the map but you found the key? What if your life was so much fun you didn't need to try to get it all done? What a wonderful, wonderful world this would be. So give it a season without a doubt. Give it a reason to all work out. Give it a chance, give it some time, give it your best. Give it a rest. What if the great big picture suddenly dawned on everybody bright and clear? What if we gave ourselves a break and let our differences be? If we could just sit still a minute, enjoy the human race and not have to win it. What a wonderful, wonderful world this could be. What a wonderful, wonderful world this could be. Free freedom. Tell me, cousin Tina. What a magnificent point of view. Here in the middle of I love you. So delicious and simple and brief. What a relief. What if every step of the journey was just as sweet as the final prize? What if we lost the map but we found the key? What if our life was so much fun we didn't need to What a wonderful, wonderful world. What a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful world this could be. I see trees of green, red roses too. What a wonderful world.
Terry Wilder, Tommy Cosentino. What if we really enjoyed Terry Wilder's vocals? And what if we understood that was, you heard the phrase tip of the iceberg? Because if you really want to get if you want that freedom of mind we're talking about, stick around for that gong meditation, because I'm telling you, it just knocks the ball right out of the park. And let's just know this together. Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
Something wonderful is happening through me right now.
It's this thing called life.
It's this thing called life.
It's this thing called freedom.
It's this thing called freedom.
It's this thing called love.
It's this thing called love.
It's this thing called potential.
It's this thing called potential.
And it's this thing called me experiencing it all.
It's this thing called me experiencing it all.
Thank you, God, in me.
Thank you, God.